All right, you ready? The Indianapolis motherfucking Colts and Frank motherfucking Reich, baby. I am on this train. I'm all over it. Frank Reich may be my. Here's where the controversy is going to come in. Frank Reich may be my favorite Colts coach ever.
Man love happening right now. Man love.
Yeah, I'm so excited about what's going on there. I mean, not Marchabroda, not Pagano. I like Pagano. He's a nice guy. Everybody loves Marchabroda. He's the one that kind of resurrected this whole thing. Jim Harbaugh let her rip thing. Definitely not Jim Caldwell. And yes, this includes Tony Dungy. I'm going to say it. Deuce, plug your ears.
All right. I didn't say I was a Tony. I didn't say Tony Dungy.
This is a kind of what I'm getting ready to say. If you say down on the circle, I get punched in the mouth. I think Dungy is overrated. Manning piloted that machine. We all know it. 7 seasons, 4 first-round playoff exits, only 2 AFC championship games, 1 Super Bowl, defensive guru, yet his defenses were statistically at the bottom of the league year in and out, with one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time statistically. And I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I'm not trying to beat on Dungy here, because he's obviously knows football. He's obviously a good coach. He had winning seasons in Tampa. He was at the helm of a juggernaut in Indianapolis that is a generational juggernaut that comes through. You don't coach in this league for 20 years and have a winning record if you don't know what you're doing. Obviously, he's a hell of a likable guy. Everybody loves the guy. But it doesn't make him a great coach. He pulled everything together at the right time, and I just think he's a really good coach. I think Frank Reich may be one of those Belichick kind of guys. I really believe this. Frank Reich, this guy's leaving a trail of greatness behind him. He was a backup QB in one of the most underrated NFL teams ever assembled, the Buffalo Bills in the late 80s and 90s. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls. They're the only team to ever do that. I know they didn't win one, but damn, they went to 4 in a row. They're only one of 3 teams to ever appear in 3 straight Super Bowls. They actually went in 4. Marv Levy, he won the AFC East 6 out of 8 years. Reich was studying under Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly. He had 35,000 passing yards in 11 seasons in the NFL. And a side note, he threw for 9,800 yards in only 2 seasons in the USFL before he went to the NFL. Reich was there for all of it, soaking up all that winning and all that knowledge. He started his coaching career in Indy with who? Yes, that's right, Tom motherfucking Moore and Peyton motherfucking Manning. He was relieved of his movies when Jim, who should have never been hired, that's his nickname, Jim, who should have never been hired, Caldwell, when he was fired. Reich went with him, and he went with Kim Wisenhunt, where he ended up in San Diego with who? That's right, Philip. No, I can't say that yet. He hasn't earned that yet. I'm not a huge Rivers fan. Hold on. I'm not a huge Rivers fan personally, but that's because I perceive him to have a bad attitude, sometimes competitive, but I do acknowledge sometimes competitiveness appears to come across as a bad attitude, especially, they're not my team and that kind of thing. So I do know enough to know that I don't know enough. But the guy has some numbers behind him. He can play football. Anyway, let's go back to Reich. He went to Philly, won a Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator. Now he's back in Indy, 10-6 his first season. But I'm more impressed with his 7-9 season from last year. He went 7-9 and split the division despite having one of the league's premier quarterbacks and potential Hall of Famer bail out weeks before the season started. Yeah, dude, he did that with Jacoby Brissett. I wasn't unhappy with giving Brissett a shot, because I think people deserve a shot, but I think we've seen enough. Deuce, you said this earlier. He doesn't have what it takes to start to be a contender. He's got to go. It's 7-9 season. The Hall of Fame kicker blew arguably 4 games that should have been locked down. That never happens. Almost everything that could have gone wrong last year, and they still had it together and finished 1 game under 500 and split the division. A division that ultimately sent 2 teams to the playoffs, as we've been talking about. Not only that, Reich just brought in a guy he's familiar with. Him and Rivers have worked together, and Rivers is a guy whose clock is ticking, and he knows it. He may just have one shot left, and if a guy like that is smart, he would walk in and say, you know what do we need to do to win? Just tell me what I need to do, and I'll do it. And if you don't think Rivers is that smart, I'll remind you that he left beautiful, sunny Southern California, San Diego, for Indianapolis. He could have retired and spent time with his what's he got, 37 children or something.
I think hold on. Yeah, he just had a baby just now. He's at 38 now.
Basking in the Southern California sun and his bikini and his shades, and trying to spend all the millions that he's made over the years. But no, he's moved and he wants it. He saw a place where he thinks he can get it. He's got history with Reich. He knows what Reich's capable of. I'm in. I'm all in. I'm buying the whole thing. I'm not. Like I said, I'm not personally a Rivers fan, but I personally believe this is the guy. This is the piece that they needed. This is your John Gruden walking in, your Barry Switzer. I don't care what analogy you want to use. These guys they're seasoned and they've seen a lot. I think if everything goes the way it's going to go, not only Colts are back on top of the division, but they're a contender in the postseason. And I'm going to go one step further. And if all this comes together like I think it's going to, I would only put the Chiefs and the Ravens above the Colts as far as their chances to advance to the Super Bowl. You heard it right here. Third best in the AFC. You heard it here first, which is only because I get to go first because I'm talking about
to say it's because you got to talk first.
I admit it.
Well, I'm right there with you on the Rivers train. Let me read off some stats. Last year, he was number 6 in passing yards in the league with 288 per game. He was 10th in completion percentage among quarterbacks that started at least 11 games, both of which of those statistics were ahead of Patrick Mahomes. He was 15th in touchdowns with 23. With the year before that, he was 3rd with 32. The big issue most people are talking about with Rivers coming to Indianapolis is that he's an interception machine. He was 3rd last year in interceptions with 20, but the Chargers also had one of the weakest run games in the league. They were at the low 20s in every single statistical category. They finished 5-11, so they were playing catch up. He was forcing throws, trying to make something happen to win games. So you take that into account.
I don't mean to cut you off, but that's the Brett Favre factor. The same thing that made Favre great made him dangerous. When he didn't have something, he did everything he could to make something happen.
And you're looking at the same thing.
Do what?
Yeah. Look at the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That mentality.
I like that in a guy.
I would rather go for the win than go for the tie.
Yep, exactly. So if you take all that into account with a well-oiled, stable machine that Frank Reich is building, plus one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the league, and then you have a solid running game with Marlon Mack, who was 8th last year among running backs in yards per game, and he was the only one in the top 8 that did not fumble all season. So you take that in with the offensive line, and then you have T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman, Campbell, Jack Doyle, who's a Pro Bowler. I think it's winning pieces. I think he's not going to throw interceptions the way everybody thinks he's going to do. I think he's going to come out slinging. He's going to make the throws. He's going to protect the ball. And the Colts are just going to run up numbers all season long. I have him finishing 12-4. I think the number 3 seed in the playoffs. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is the year we get it done for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think we got to at least be in contention. A lot of people when they talk about the team we had last year, just talk about the fact that Andrew Luck wasn't there and that whole situation. But up until week 6, we were competing for the best of the AFC. We had just beat the Chiefs. And then a bunch of people started getting hurt. Jacoby Brissett gets his ankle stepped on there in that Steelers game. A lot of people, I don't think a lot of people know this name, but Kamoko Toure, the first 6 weeks of last year, he was tearing up backfields. And he ended up tearing his ACL. But he's come back this year. He's been working with Robert Mathis some more. He's ready to go. And I honestly believe that this year, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be in the voting for Defensive Player of the Year. I expect him to have like 15 sacks if he stays healthy, like a true game changer. And we have DeForest Buckner coming in on defense. Like this defense it's going to be great because as a Colts fan, we've always been used to the offense being great and keeping us in games, and the defense was never good except for 2007. And so now we have it to where our defense is just as good or better than the offense. So it's going to be really fun to watch. Obviously, big Darius Leonard fan. I think he's the best linebacker in the league now that Luke Kuechly's not there. I think Darius is going to take that role as being the best linebacker in the league. He can do it all for you. He has great hands. He has great instincts. He can rush the passer when he needs to. And like I said, I'm really excited for the defense, but the offense. I mean, we have now probably the best 1-2 punch in the league when you think about it. Jonathan Taylor, if he is what people expect him to be, then you combine that with the top 5 running back from last year. It's endless with our offensive line and their run blocking ability. We got a new fullback coming in this year who's been one of the best fullbacks in the league, so that'll help. But I think going back to the injuries that we had last year, a lot of our receivers kept getting hurt. Ty, obviously our number one, he was hurt he was out 6 games, something like that last year. And I think as long as we're able to stay at least relatively healthy, if we're able to roll out T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal, and our new addition, Michael Pittman, then, I mean, and like I said, our 1-2 punch, I mean, the offense is looking like a team that's not going to be able to be stopped. Defense looks like they're going to be able to stop anybody in the league. So when it comes to playing teams like a Lamar Jackson-led Ravens or Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs team, I think if any team in the AFC or the NFL has a real chance to stop them or keep up with them, it's the Colts.
Well, first, let me start with this, Jeff. I just realized because it's Sunday and I've been heavily drinking. You're a Nordmeyer. Holy crap. I
Yes,
just
sir.
last name down there. All right.
Yes, sir.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah, I went to high school with your dad, I'm assuming. Look, the Colts, I'm going to start with the defense first before I get to the offense and rip most of you, clearly rip Brad down. The defense, I think this might be the best defense potentially. I know it's funny how we all say as long as we stay healthy, because that always seems to be the Colts' MO, right? They just always seem to have bad luck when it comes to injuries. I mean,
you'll hear me say about winning in general requires a lot of luck, and I think injuries falls into that for every team. Sure.
Colts just constantly have major injury issues, whether it's Andrew Luck or even Peyton Manning, or this just always seems to be our story of the year. But yeah, if we can stay healthy, that defense to me looks like a defense that could potentially be the best the Colts, at least in this new modern era of the Colts being in Indianapolis, has maybe ever had. You look at Justin Houston, who's somebody that no one's really talked about. He's just been kind of like, oh, he's the old guy. Oh yeah, he's coming from the Chiefs. He quietly had 11.5 sacks last year. He's still a disruptor. He's motivated. DeForest Buckner. It's funny. I keep hearing people say, "Well, the Colts gave up their first-round pick." No, we got a first-round pick. His name is DeForest Buckner.
You got a seasoned first-round pick, ready to play, plug and play, man.
Our first-round pick. So yes, we did get a first-round pick. We got DeForest Buckner. That's who we got. Teray that you mentioned, he's going to be a monster if he can stay healthy. It's just the only question on our defense is I'm not big on Malik Hooker right now. I don't dislike him. I'm not saying cut him. I'm just like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like every time we get somebody from Ohio State, it's like, I hate to say it, but the Colts always get the same type of player from Ohio State. Someone who had an injury-prone college career, but now we're going to take a risk on him in the pros. And so it's the same story. Malik Hooker has never really had more than one full season of football in the last 8 years. I mean, he's just always injured. I don't care how great his hands are. So that to me is the only concern on the defense. On the offense, T.Y. Hilton is getting older, but it's funny, as good as T.Y. is, how much he gets disrespected. He's just never put along with the elites. Though I will say this, I do think he's a better number 2 receiver. I think you need that big body receiver to come across those middles. You need that Reggie Wayne, and that's where Michael Pittman Jr. is going to come in. I think he's going to be amazing. The
I
offensive
agree.
line, I mean, I don't need to get into the offensive line. We all know about that. It's so funny how impactful Nelson is, not just in terms of the team and not just in terms of the mentality, how that offensive line's got nastier, but fans now. When's the last time you've seen fans that want to go out and buy an offensive lineman's jersey? I mean, he's the new hero of the team, and it's awesome. And if you've ever seen him on podcasts or like video casts, he looks like he's out of his freaking mind. And he's great. So that leaves us running backs and quarterback. Running backs, it's funny that none of you mentioned Taylor. Not one single one of you has mentioned Jonathan Taylor, who
Jeff mentioned him.
Jeff, I'm sorry, I was so lost in the Norton Meyer name. That's who I think is going to be the steal of the draft. And it's funny because when you hear the analysts, even Mel Kiper, who I can't stand, I'm like, dude, get a new hairdo. But they've all said that he's another Saquon Barkley. And I'll tell you what, if that's even remotely true, wow, big win for the Colts. If he's just remotely like a Saquon Barkley, oh my God, we'll take that all day long. Because all of a sudden we're going to finally start to have those screen passes and all those little things that Frank likes to do. Peyton did a lot of with Edgerrin James. That's what Edgerrin James, he talks about all the time. It was so great about Edgerrin James catching that ball in the backfield. I know that they say Taylor, that's kind of his fault. But, you drop 3 passes and all of a sudden, you're they keep saying he's a fumbler. But he actually didn't really lose that many balls when you look at collectively. Anyways, I think he's going to break out. Phillip Rivers. I don't know why so many people are hard on Phillip Rivers. Boo you, Brad Hall. Boo. Look.
Now, I said the guy, he's got the numbers, he's got the stats. Zach backed that up.
What you said was
I just don't like, I like to watch him lose when he was in San Diego.
Like the what? I think he's ranked like what? The 13th? Somewhere along the lines of quarterbacks all time. Yeah. Look, we all know that Phillip Rivers is better than last year. I mean, yeah. I did not see anything that said, oh my God, he's father time. It is over for him. Look at our beloved Peyton Manning.
Yep.
That last year that he played when they won that Super Bowl, and even Peyton now says it. I mean, you saw it. You're like, oh dear God, he's done. It's sad to watch. Adam Vinatieri, we knew it. It was sad to watch. Done. I haven't seen that at Phillip Rivers. I saw a guy that felt like, whether it was right or wrong, it felt like he seemed to think he had to do it all on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like constantly trying to bail out and start whizzing the ball. Andrew Luck did the same thing. Brett Favre did the same thing. Do I think he's going to be with us for the next 3 years? No. I think if we get 2 years out of him, I think that'd be amazing. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to be a bust. You know what? If he is a bust, it's possible. You never know. If he is a bust, okay, cool. We got Jacoby Brissett, but we know what can get us through the rest of the season. And it only costs us 1-year contract. And, but I think he's going to have a breakout season. I see the Colts ultimately going 11-5. I ironically think I can see them going deep in the playoffs. I think not this year, the following year, Phillip Rivers' final year. You heard it here first. Next year, Phillip Rivers will win a Super Bowl with Indy and right off into the sunset and go take his coaching job down in Alabama with his 38 kids. I feel like the Colts are putting pieces around, but we all know it's not that easy. And look, the Chiefs are really good. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, to me, football is the ultimate team sport. The ultimate team sport. No one can really take over a game like they can in basketball. Boy, it sure seems like Patrick Mahomes can take over a game, completely on his freaking own. And so can Lamar Jackson. So,
yeah.
I'm not sure that the Colts are ready to compete with that yet. But, man, you got to love Frank Reich. I'm a huge Frank Reich. I completely agree with you, Brad. Huge. And ain't it funny how close we came to getting that other guy?
Yeah.
Oh, dman, it would have been awful.
Did you ever think about that? It's kind of like that time, when you're reflecting on your life. You guys are all kind of somewhere getting there. Not as old as me and Brad, but you're at that age, you're reflecting on your life and you're looking at your wife and you're like, man, I almost married that one girl. Oof, thank God. That's what this was. We got the better of the deal here. And I agree with you. I think Frank Reich is a hell of a coach. What I like about him is what you didn't. I guess what you might not like Tony Dungy. I'm not saying Tony was the greatest of all time, but what he did do was kind of like a Phil Jackson type thing. Like he got all
Exactly.
the stars together, and he provided this really positive locker room thing. And that's Chris Ballard's been preaching that, and it's funny how important that is.
Yeah. But can we talk about Chris Ballard for a second?
Yes,
I mean, it's the first we brought him up. This guy's a magician, and the light is always brighter when you come out of the darkness. Ballard should thank Grigson that he looks like a superstar. But I mean, he's putting all this together. I mean, and he deserves a lot of the credit.
And the coach, like, you go back and you look at the Colts when they made the run. Yes, I think they should have won more Super Bowls. You can say what you want about Tony Dungy, and some people have things to say about Peyton Manning, but that whole era with all those players and just 11-win season that was expected, and it pretty much always happened, that had a large part to do with that upper structure of Bill Polian and, Tony Dungy and Peyton Manning, and they just had these pieces that just had built this culture. And I think that's what Frank Reich and Chris Ballard are doing.
Yeah, I agree. But I want to talk about somebody else that we probably would never even talk about. The defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. Eberflus. Yeah. Have you guys seen the picture of this guy?
No, I don't.
He looks like we'll have to put this up. He looks like he's 35. He's been in the league 29 years. So evidently he started coaching when he was 6. I don't know how that happened. But this guy, so Jeff and I were talking before this today, and in 2019, the Colts defense, they finished 7th in the league against the run, allowing only 98 yards per game, basically. They ranked 8th in rush defense in 2018. They finished ranked in the top 10 in run defense in back-to-back seasons. That's where I got that stat, Jeff. It's right. It's on the Colts on Eberflus's bio here. They ranked in the top 10 in interceptions and takeaways. I mean, this guy's he's quietly doing a hell of a job. They talk about in his bio that he's a linebacker guy, and that's one of the reasons that Darius Leonard is excelling like he is. So here's another unsung hero that I think we may just have another hidden genius in the background pulling some strings, just another feather in this cap of this juggernaut.
Well, that also, if I may cut in, that also goes back to also what you're talking about and the greatness of Frank Reich and Chris Ballard, because there came that time when they were going to decide whether they were going to keep Matt or not, because he wasn't one of their people.
Yeah.
Remember, he was a Josh McDaniels person.
Yeah.
Josh McDaniels came here because McDaniels promised him all these things, and then it was kind of like you're like that kid at the party with the wrong address. You're like, where the hell's everybody at? And so they made a decision, but they didn't make a personal decision like, oh, he wasn't our guy. They went, you know what? It turns out he is our guy because he's doing a great job, like you said. So they kept him. So, where I think of most coaching or GM staffs didn't matter. They would have just got rid of him because he's not our guy.
Yeah. And this goes with what you were saying, Jeff. I mean, everybody's talking about the offensive line. They're talking about Rivers and Wright, and this guy has put together one of the best defenses in the league. That's got Super Bowl written all over it. I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
I mean, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl with a stout defense. Can you imagine what Phillip Rivers could do?
Yeah, exactly. And I like that we picked up Xavier Rhodes, who for years has been covering number 1 receivers, right? But we drafted Rocky Sin last year, and now he's covering the number 1s. And Rocky Sin, he made some rookie mistakes last year, but for the most part, did a pretty good job with what he had to do. And now we're asking Xavier Rhodes to cover number 2 receivers. We have Kenny Moore, who is, if you look at all the stats, bar none, the best slot corner in the league. Like, it's not even close. I like that we're actually going to be able to cover people. We usually give up so many passing yards. So what we've done with the corners, what Ballard and Eberflus has put together on the defense is really exciting.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, just looking at with the Deuce, he said he's not big on Hooker, and I think that is the only question mark on the defense because the front seven are loaded, and then you have Xavier Rhodes, Rockison, and more on the outside. So the only question mark, in my opinion, is back in this safety area with Malik Hooker.
So, talking about the front seven, let me. I'm going to read this. This is coming straight from Eberflus's bio, right? As far as defensive line, the Colts unit's ranked second in the NFL with 56 tackles for loss. They had 3 defensive linemen registered double-digit tackles for loss, and that was Sheard, Autry, and Hunt. I could just keep reading stat after stat after stat after stat.
Well, to me, also one of the stats that often gets overlooked when you see how good of a defense was, because a lot of times teams or defense or offenses that get praised are on teams that also succeed. So if you're not on a winning team, you might not get looked at as, well, they're a good defense. It's just stats. But you look at the Colts offense last year, how we forget, whether you're a Jacoby fan or not a Jacoby fan, it doesn't matter. We were a very low scoring team, extremely low scoring team. I think we had one game where we scored like over 30 points. I think it was against the Texans. And people were like, oh my God, yes, we turned the corner. And then no, we didn't. Like we just always averaged right around like 14, 17 points a game on average. So the fact that we still won 7, and we can easily point to 2 games where we definitely should have won. Most of those were won by defense's ability to keep a lot of teams low scoring, so we had a chance because we were not a high scoring offense. So if you're winning games and only scoring 17, 20 points, that means your defense is doing its job by continuously holding teams down below.
Point. Excellent point.
I think they're the most exciting part of the team that I think everybody's kind of waiting for. Like if everything happens the right way. Whew.
Yeah, and I think if everything, I mean, and it goes back to the whole Buckner trade, the first round draft pick. You don't have to wait for this guy to develop. I think they brought Rivers in, they brought Buckner in because they intend on winning now. And everybody's certainly right. It could be next year, but it could be now. They could put the whole thing together. Who knows? Maybe they can put it back to back. God, wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh yeah,
that'd be great.
And let's also not forget too, when we talk about injuries, injuries are a big part of the game, but it's not just the Colts, because God forbid, and I'm not saying I want this to happen, but God forbid Patrick Mahomes, let's say, goes down. That changes the whole complexity of the AFC.
Henry.
And he is not a player that has proven that he doesn't get injured. In fact, he does get injured, Patrick Mahomes. Derrick Henry is in a position that often gets most injured of all, and especially with his style of running, So I'm not saying I want that to happen. I like beating the best, but I'm just saying, like, that whole AFC division. Look, everybody knows it's the Chiefs and the Ravens, and rightfully so. They've earned their place as the 2 at the top, and you got to take those 2 down. People are back and forth who's going to go to the Super Bowl with one of those 2 teams. So, and they both have young quarterbacks that aren't going anywhere for a while. So you got to find a team that can stop them and then score. And the Colts are doing that. Chris Ballard is building a team, good on offense and on defense, and it's taken some time, but it's fun to watch. And if everything comes together, man, this is gonna be a fun team.
Yeah, and they're young.
They're rookies too.
Rivers is obviously Rivers is in the twilight of his career, but everybody else is young. This whole thing, if this takes off, this is a long time coming.
Yeah, the only 2 really older people on the team are Rivers and Houston.
Yeah,
and we're still set on the cap, right? We're still good on the cap.
Oh yeah, we have still a lot of cap space, but they're doing it the right way. And maybe you could throw T.Y. Hilton in there. He's probably 3-4 years removed.
Yeah. So I gotta pose a scenario here. Colts, Bucks, Tampa in February.
They'll do that.
I'm there.
I can't even. I got goosebumps, man. I'm already beer bonging over here.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Who would that be?
So keep this in mind. The last time I went to the Super Bowl and got to talk to all kinds of people and interview everybody from Marv Levy to Joe Montana, it was great. was Indianapolis because the station I was on was the home station of the Indianapolis Colts. We had through Q95, and we are now the home station for the Bucks at Raymond James Stadium. So yes, if that happens, you think I haven't thought about that? Hell yeah! I mean, God, it could just be the Colts and the Bucks.
We have two. It would be it'd be surreal, man. I don't know. I can't think about it too much. It's a very real possibility. That's the other thing. Very real possibility.
Yes, if they do, who would be the NFC chief? Because there's not really anybody in the NFC that you're like hugely scared of. Like
I think the Saints.
The Saints, but they always seem to blow it. And the 49ers, you're not really sure if you're on Jimmy Garoppolo train yet or not. You're waiting.
Yeah.
They can be beat. The Chiefs are that team that like scares the hell out of you. Because when they're on firing on all cylinders, it's like just get out of the way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Chiefs are the team to beat. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Until proven otherwise, man, they're the same team we saw last year, if not better.
If the Colts make it through the Ravens and the Chiefs, I'm not worried about the San Francisco 49ers.
Good point. We did talk about how fun the NFC South is going to be. Just like the AFC South is going to be a fun division, but then watching the Saints and the Bucks and see who comes out on top there is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's dude. I mean, it's funny because when it happens, and you're just like, I was just like, dear God, I can't get away from Tom Brady. Like I personally felt like I was being stalked by him. I was just like, oh, and I already in my head started knowing. I'm like, as soon as because I have to post stuff about the Bucks as part of my job.
Yeah.
Bucks. I mean, I work for the station that literally covers the Bucks. So I was broadcasting at training camp last year. I'll be back in training camp this year. And it's just weird. There's Tom Brady and there's Gronk. Like, what is happening right now? It's just the most bizarre thing. And you want to talk about jumping aboard that train where everybody's eating up the Brady train.
Yeah. Well, it's like we talked about with Rivers. Brady may be the piece. He may be the final piece of that puzzle to push that over the top.
Yeah, or it could all collapse. Either way, it's going to be fun to watch.
Agreed. All right, man. This is a cool discussion. I appreciate you joining us, Deuce. Anybody got any last words they want to say?
Nope, we're good. Want to give yourself a plug, Deuce?
The only thing I want to say is, long live Nordenmeyer! Now, thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome back anytime as we go through the season. Jump on and talk about the Colts or the Bucks or whatever you want. We want to come up and can we give a shout out to we're new to this whole media thing. Can we talk about caddies on the beach here?
Yeah, you can talk. Why can't you talk about caddies on the beach?
We'd love to come up there and do one of these up there, man. That'd be
caddies on the beach is a lot of fun.
Yeah. We thought it'd be really cool to be sitting at top deck having a drink, talking about football. So
yeah, that's what I'll be doing. Sure.
we just need to bring a camera and put it up in front of your face, and we're good.
Yeah. Must have put a cardboard cutout of me in front of the camera.
He's around here somewhere.
That's right. There he is talking to those girls.
Cool, man. I appreciate you joining us. We're going to come up catch a game or two this year, so we'll give you a shout. And I would love to have you back again.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
You, man.
All right. What are we next week? We're going to recap. We're going to go back over all the things that have happened since we started covering the divisions, all the trades and the updated news and the updated preseason schedule and all that. We'll review that next week. And again, we'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions, got anything you want us to say, and give us a shout. Remember to like, share, subscribe, share, tell all your friends, share it all over your social media. And we appreciate it. Ciao.